Yeah, sure. So yeah, hi everyone. Today's session is about supercharging Intune with 5 community apps. So it started quite a long time ago. This presentation idea, Dean came up with a tweet about what's the top 10 community applications, and with the idea of doing a talk or doing a video of it, and then soon realized that 10 community applications was a lot of work.
It really
And
is.
I think that idea got kind of put to the park bench for a little bit, and here we are with it now. But we've slimmed it down to 10 applications, and both
Five.
Dean 5 applications, and and Dean and I are going about half or 2 and 3 on it, rather than having to do 10 by himself. So yeah, welcome to the presentation. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit ambitious when I said I'm going to do a presentation on 10 community apps because it might not take too long to talk through 10 community apps, but it takes a long time to learn an individual community app enough to talk about it. So multiply that by 10, and I got through 2 and thought I cannot do this. So five, five isn't bad for a 45-minute session probably, but 2 is good enough for me to have learned it enough to talk about it, and then John the same with 2. And you'll notice there's one app that we go through today that actually both of us have learned a little bit of it, and we neither of us are actually experts on it. So let's see if you can work out which one that is. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this topic. Should we jump into the introduction slide, John?
Let's go.
You first.
Cool, I'm first. So yeah, as obviously my name's Jon Jarvis. I work for CDW as a principal consultant, and I generally look after the whole of the Microsoft 365 stack. I've got 10 plus years experience in the MS Cloud, so I think roughly since the early days of Office 365. Back when we were doing lots of Exchange 2010 to Exchange Online migrations, and kind of last 4 years or so really kind of enjoyed the whole desktop and endpoint manager side of things as well. So that's what I've been working on for the past 4 to 5 years. I'm a Microsoft MCT, so I'll do some training stuff as well within CDW. And I have over 22, over 22. I have 22 Microsoft certifications as of last week. So that's everything from Azure Virtual Desktop, the Windows 10 one, the cyber security, the architect one, the recent one. So yeah, no Power Platform ones yet, except for the fundamentals, which is the next one I want to do. So if Rory's still here, I don't think he is he? Maybe. Yeah, I might be looking at the academy stuff you shared earlier to kind of help me with some of the Power Platform stuff. I'm also the co-host of the Microsoft Spotlight podcast. So we talk to at the moment women in tech, and talk about their journeys from growing up and kind of going into tech and understanding everyone's stories. It's not really a technical podcast whatsoever, but we do speak to Microsoft employees, MVPs, and people generally in the community. So it's been really good. I think we recorded episode 41 today, or 42. So we're quite far along that journey and loads of different stories. So if you want to listen to it, check the website Microsoft Spotlight.cloud at the bottom there, or check us out on Spotify, iTunes, etc., and also YouTube. And a little bit of a fun one there. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been a black belt now for nearly 2 years and training for 13 or so. So yeah, that's about me. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, give us a follow. And any questions after today, feel free to hit me up. Dean, your turn.
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't have as many certs, so I didn't put any of those certs. I've got 5 or 6, right? I'm not going to shout about that.
I'm just
and
a
they're
bit of a
tough,
nerd, to be
right?
fair. I'm a bit of a nerd.
I don't have the time. I put the effort into learning, and then scheduling the exam. I just don't have. I haven't got the patience to do an exam. I have around 16 years experience. I made that number up. It's a lot for me, right? I'm only 35 or something, so it's a good half of my life spent around endpoint management. I'm Enterprise Ability MVP and a certified trainer, and I organize a cloud management community. It's a YouTube channel, really, but we started out on Teams and started our growing community there. And then I realized that actually I quite like talking and seeing myself on video. So I do a YouTube channel as well. And also, I'm an author at petri.com. I write some blogs there and do some how-to talks there as well. And also a Pluralsight author on a Intune course and also on assessments. I write assessments for Pluralsight as well. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, as you saw, and on Twitter as well. So you can reach out to me. So should I start, John?
Yeah, go for it.
We wanted to talk about our favorite community apps for Intune. And I'm going to start with two that aren't necessarily related to Intune. So my bad. But the first one we're going to go for is OSD Cloud. Let me just move stuff out of the way because it's all over my screen. So if any of you have used Intune, and I can't actually see chat right now because I've only got two screens. If any of you have used Intune, you'll know that its least great feature is its ability to do operating system deployment. I mean, you've got autopilot, but it's not really true OSD. And so that's really what I want to talk about OSD Cloud first. I'm going to assume at least one or two of you have heard about OSD Cloud, but if you haven't, don't worry. I'm not going to go into it too much. I've only got 5 or 10 minutes or so to go into this, but I will give it a brief introduction by way of a scenario, because if I just tell you what OSD Cloud does, the majority of you will say, I don't think I need it. But I'm going to give you a scenario where someone might say, actually, I need OSD Cloud. OSD Cloud will improve my workflow. So let's say you are Michael, and that's Michael. He looks pretty happy. He is an IT manager for a global disaster relief organization. So, happiness isn't what he does normally. This organization is responsible for mobilizing relief stations across the globe in response to any type of disaster. That could be a flood, wildfires, war, whatever, really. When I say mobilize, they fly in some of their staff via helicopter or aeroplane. And those staff typically have laptops and they're ready to go straight away. So there they are. There's the staff with laptops. Often, though, this isn't a short-term relief that they're doing, right? So there's a war going on. They need to mobilize some staff there. It's not over in a few days. They need to set up camp and get things running. So they need to recruit volunteers in country near the affected area. And some of those volunteers need a device to work, right? They're going to be sat here not really doing much with regards to the actual administration of this workforce. And that might be tracking vaccinations or tracking refugees or tracking whatever, really. So a little bit more about this scenario then. There are some technical constraints on the left. No laptops are prepared currently. So they didn't get any laptops ready for this event. It could happen at any time. It's a disaster or a war or something. Wars can be planned, but typically you don't get advance notification. All equipment will either be new or borrowed or recovered. And there are some technical advantages because they've done this before and they know how to set up quickly. So we know that they'll have good connectivity via Starlink or any other satellite provider that is, incredible. And at least one of the staff that goes to the site and starts up are technical. So that's what we know about the environment. So if we're to assume that we're able to get hold of some hardware, how can you make sure that it has the right software on it to get the volunteer up and running? Maybe we could use a USB stick. Okay, that's good. It could hold the latest version of Windows, but when was that last updated? The last time this team was called into action was around 3 years ago. So what if the machine, the image hasn't been updated since 1703? All right, what about drivers? It could have some model specific drivers on it, but how are you going to know which model the team are going to pick up from out in the field? Okay, and software. So Autopilot is brilliant, but it can be a little hit and miss. I'm sure some of you, if you've ever used Autopilot, you realize it isn't as plain sailing as Microsoft might have you believe. So core software in an image is really good for basic software and some complex apps. So solving these challenges is pretty hard, especially if you consider that you need to solve the problem globally and without warning. So, right, for those of you who've built machines with a USB stick before, I'm sure you remember how annoying it was to have to go back and update that USB stick with a new build. Imagine how impossible that would be if you had to be Michael. And he's thousands of miles away from whichever country that has had this disaster, or whichever region has had this need for his team. And he needs to ensure that the security and productivity is great across his entire workforce. And that's where OSD Cloud comes in. So you'll notice that I've labeled this USB stick WinPE. That's the Windows pre-installation environment, if you've never come across that before. It's tiny, it's just a few megabytes. It's also generic. It's the same regardless of the version of Windows that you're building, or the apps you're installing, or the use case that you've got, with a couple of slight variations for different versions of the ADK. In fact, the USB stick that we're going to use, even if you were going to build these devices from any other platform, such as MDT, SCCM, via a USB stick, you're going to start with WinPE. It's the thing that gets a Windows installation started. It's the pre-installation environment. So the other thing to note is that this stick only has WinPE on it. It has nothing else on it. It has no apps and no image, no anything at all. Well, it's got PowerShell, but that's it. So we know it's very small. It's got no apps and no drivers or images on it, but it does have Windows PowerShell. All Michael has to do, where's Michael? There he is. All Michael has to do is make sure his technical team on the ground have access to a generic WinPE USB stick. And if they don't, it'll just take them a few seconds to build one. And then they don't need to modify it after that. They just need to have that stick. And with this WinPE USB stick, they can use OSD Cloud. So OSD Cloud allows an IT engineer to build any device from any image with just a 50 or so megabyte WinPE USB stick. How are we doing for time?
Yeah, not bad. Go for it. It's all right. I can run through mine.
All right. I'm going to do a very, very quick demo, just because it deserves a demo, I think. Just as a show of hands, as I can now see the team channel. Anyone seen OSD Cloud before? Any knowledge of OSD Cloud at all? John? Yeah, thanks, John. Good. No one? Okay, fine. Well, this will be fun. Okay, so we'll start out with not that one. We'll start out with this one over here. And let me just grab this. Hopefully, this will work. Right. So firstly, you need to have the OSD Cloud module installed. I'm not going to do that because I've only got 3 or 4 minutes to do this demonstration. You need that installed. If you, yeah, we do need that. It's installed as module OSD. It'll work fine. Once you've got the module installed, it's simply a case of creating a workspace. Now, if David Segura, the chap who created OSD Cloud, was to see this talk, he'd be pretty furious because I haven't walked through the template creation, which is also a prerequisite to getting OSD Cloud working. But there simply isn't time for me to go through that. If you want to learn more about OSD Cloud, I'm actually giving a talk in September at Workplace Ninja around OSD Cloud, just OSD Cloud Azure. And if you're attending that already, then I'll put the link into chat later on when Jon is talking. But for now, let's just assume we've got it all up and running because we're pretty familiar with OSD Cloud. And in PowerShell, I'm just going to type a couple of commands. So got PowerShell up here. I'm going to type new OSD Cloud workspace and then type in the location of a folder that doesn't exist. Workspace, for example. And that will create me a workspace for OSD Cloud. It does some copying. You'll see it's copying from the template, which I mentioned I haven't shown you how to create, but if you follow the guide on osdcloud.com, you'll see how to create a template. So from there, we're just going to quickly take a look at what that looks like, which is in my F drive in OSD Cloud. So that's here. And I'll just full screen that for us. So we get, by default, when you just run that command, you get a config folder with some folders with some JSON for Autopilot, the Autopilot Ubi folder and Ubi deploy. We also have some logs, and we have media, and we have OSD Cloud ISO and OSD Cloud no prompt ISO. Now, I've not done anything at all to get those to create. I've just typed in that one command that you saw there. So it's all created for us. It's copied over from there. What we do need to do, though, is just to improve the first run experience for our engineer, is to run one command, which is edit-OSD Cloud WinPE. Now, if you want to use this tool for other things, then maybe get help. Edit OSD Cloud would give us what things you can do. Well, get help examples would do it better. Things like forcing a start URL, forcing a specific build, addition, all this kind of stuff you can do to make it better and quicker. But right now, all I want to do is just get it up and running. So I'm going to do edit OSD Cloud WinPE. And what that does, without any additional parameters, is just starts OSD Cloud by default, which is something that will speed up the next step when I start booting this device. So I'm going to choose edit OSD Cloud WinPE, and it's going to mount the Windows image from the boot Win that I put in there from the template that you didn't see, and put a couple of commands in there to start this automatically. Once that's done, I will be able to put it in my VM. And if it doesn't go that quick, then I will just skip ahead, because I already have, as you can imagine, prepared one of these images ready for this. And so what we're doing here is simply creating this WinPE environment ready to put onto our ISO, which will allow us to boot from any device, from any USB stick, from any virtual machine in the world, connecting up to to OSD Cloud. So next, we're just going to create a new OSD Cloud ISO. By running that, it'll take those changes that we've put into the WinPE and create the ISO super quick. As you can see, it is, for this one here, it's just in my F drive. So I'm going to stick that into my virtual machine. This one here, as you can see, I've done that before. So that's that there. Booting from USB drive, from DVD drive. So we'll choose that and connect to that and choose go, and then it will prompt, because I chose the no prompt ISO. Give that a few seconds. Just press any key to boot from DVD, and what we'll get is a command prompt, right? So this is different from your normal WinPE. Normally WinPE would give you well, it would ideally it would give you a way to install Windows, and this is going to start command prompt for us, go through a couple of things and do whatever you've asked it to do in that edit WinPE. For me, I didn't ask it to do anything apart from start automatically, so it's going to go ahead and do that. And in a few moments, you'll hopefully see it open a PowerShell window so that I can start typing some commands. Now, I'll be hopefully quite clear that this is a very basic implementation of OSD Cloud. You've seen exactly what I've done to set this up. You can customize it to your heart's content and make it as automated as possible for creating new machines, right? So we've got a PowerShell prompt here. So at the moment, I'm going to talk about just OSD Cloud GUI. So I want to just start -OSD Cloud GUI. You'll notice that in the tab complete there, we've got OSD Cloud, OSD Cloud Azure, and OSD Cloud GUI, OSD Cloud GUI Dev. This is very open source, and almost all of the stuff that David Segura is developing is ready and available in this tool. You just need to play around with it and see what he's doing. For now, OSD Cloud GUI is what I'm talking about, so we will start OSD Cloud GUI. Just to answer the question that came into the chat there, I didn't see who it was, but I saw the words. That yes, it's a module that can be installed just by it's just called OSD. So install -module OSD, and you've got everything you need. Right, so OSD Cloud GUI is now there. As you can see, we've got a title there with the version of OSD Cloud GUI that we're running, some deployment options, update catalog options. If we jump into them, you can see a couple of options that we can choose. The team are designing this as they go, right? So originally it didn't have any drop-down menus, and now it does because it seemed to make sense. Otherwise, it had some checkboxes which didn't really make sense. So update catalog, so you can choose different types of drivers and firmwares and stuff that are available from the update catalog. And you'll notice that all of these are available. I absolutely have not uploaded or imported any of these images. These are all from OSD Cloud GUI. It knows where to get these from. These are available on the web. So let's choose 21H2 for Windows 11. I'm going to go with Enterprise, US, why not? And the update catalog, by default, these are the drivers that are built in to OSD Cloud GUI. You can extend that, you can increase that as you need to, but let's assume we're just going to leave that as default and choose start. That will do some things, verify the settings. It's very open as to what it's doing. The logging is fantastic, as you can see, very verbose. And it will do some things. It's going to ask me if I'm okay to perform the action of wiping the disk. I've chosen yes to all, and it's going to go ahead and build me Windows 11 21H2. All I've done is create that USB stick. So that is OSD Cloud. I will let it. It's going to take 6 or so minutes to build that machine. I don't have 6 minutes. We're already almost halfway through. My bad. Any questions on OSD Cloud before I move on to my next favorite community tool? Nothing at all. Okay, good. Right, so back to my slides. Back to my slides. Which. So on to Which, then I've lost the chat again. I think the best way I can describe this tool is to steal the developer, the creator of this tool's words. And in 2019, Don O'Ryan, the developer, said it's a GUI-driven solution for image customization. Now, I know what you're thinking, this is 2022. We don't need images. And, all right, maybe you're right, but you're not. A lot of organizations don't use Windows Autopilot, and so they rely on imaging, whether that be OSD Cloud in the way I've just shown you, or MDT, or Config Manager, or even USB. Now, before I put myself on a hill and die on it, I'm not talking about full, thick images. I'm not talking about bad images where you install a ton of applications and local policies and make it the worst thing you ever could. We all know that the best image you can use is the native image from Microsoft, right? So that's good, until you realize it's 3 months out of date and is missing critical optional updates, and it's got Xbox Live and Candy Crush built in. I'm talking about the native Windows image, adding updates and removing the stuff that simply shouldn't be there. It's essentially a light touch image, and it allows the WIM to be patched with updates, drivers to be applied if that works for your scenario, inbox applications to be removed, and things like .NET 3 binaries to be injected. So probably a good time to do a demo, unless there are any questions on Wimwich. Any questions on Wimwich? Chat back up. Has anyone seen Wimwich before? Not Scooby. John has. Thank you, John. Thank you. You must have seen my videos. Okay, good. So, and someone else in the chat. Marcus, thanks. Thanks, Marcus. Good to see you. Right. Quick demo then. Where is it? It's not a VM, so we'll leave that. I might have it down here somewhere, but I've just got it ready to go. So in this folder, I have downloaded Wimwich, which, as you can see, is just this set of files. I got it from GitHub. I'll put the link in the chat later on. It is just a set of folders that you can download, and it's good to go. You simply run Wimwich, and it will do some lovely things to start up Wimwich. It hasn't been updated for a little while, but it's really good as it is, so you don't need to worry about that. And it has just popped up on the other screen, so I'll bring it over. You can see that it's got a ton of options on the top, and we're going to go through a few of them, but I appreciate the time, and John is probably desperate to start talking about his stuff. I'm going to start with choosing the ISO, right? So I've got a few Microsoft images that I want to start with, so I'm just going to go into that folder, and I've got like Windows 10 Business 20H2, so I'm going to open that. And I want to import a Wim. So let's import that. I'm going to call it Windows 10 20H2 and go with import. And as I click that button, you can see underneath PowerShell starts doing some stuff. And it popped up over here asking which version of Windows 10 I want, because it's evaluated within each of those, within the ISO that I've just chosen, that there's some additional versions within it. It's 20H2, 21H1, and 21H2. I chose 20H2. I'm going to go with that, so I'll stick with it. Choose OK, and it's doing some copying in the background. Again, very verbose, very easy to understand what's going on there. I mean, it says not responding. It's just doing a load of copying in the background. I'm hoping that'll go in a few seconds, because I do need to click another button. Importing complete. Awesome. So next we need to just jump into SourceWim and see which SourceWim we've just imported. So you can see this one here, 21H2, that I've just done. Where was it? Yeah, I think that was it that I just did there. And it's now asking me which version I want over on the other side. So I'll choose Windows 10 Enterprise. There that is. Give it a few seconds to populate. Looking for the correct version of Windows 10. And it's 20H2. So there we go. We get some really valuable information about that. Now you'll notice the next one along is Update Catalog. It is possible to use a thing actually created by David Segura, OSD SUS, which will allow you to update images offline. And so I could choose Windows 10, I could choose 20H2, and then choose download, and it would allow me to update that WIM file with those packages. I'm not going to do that because it'll take longer than 3 or 4 minutes I've got for this talk, but it is possible to do that. It's a very good use case for Wimwich. Next, customizations. If you have any language packs or experience packs, even .NET that you want to install. I mean, when I was working in delivery and consulting, I would always choose these two because they were the most important things that I was delivering for customers and really were a pain to install after the fact. So that's important. And then also app removal. Let's just tick app removal. And what you'll see when I choose select is that actually it pops up. And this is a list of apps that aren't just generic apps that Wimwich has picked from the ether. These are apps that are installed in this Wim, right? So these are the ones that you might love or you might hate. So things like Mixed Reality Portal, for example, or Get Help or Get Started. These might be things that you don't want in your enterprise image. So let's choose OK. And then when I make it so in the future, these apps will be removed. Along the top here, we've got some scripts that you can run. You can make it run a PowerShell script at the end or at any point during this process. Same with drivers. We can inject some drivers if you happen to know what drivers they are and you aren't using any additional tool set like OSD Cloud or Config Manager, then yeah, you could use drivers. And then finally, autopilot. Now, I touched on Autopilot in OSD Cloud. Both of these tools allow you to inject the Autopilot JSON file so that you can put the next step of that build to Autopilot. So you don't need to do that hardware hash collection at any point. It will just make the next step the machine does straight into your tenant. Finally, you can make that a saved configuration if you want, but the next thing you really want to do is make it so, give it a target Vim name, and then put it in your completed Vims folder to upload to any other tool that you need. You can even create an ISO if the next step for you is just to burn that to a disk or a USB and build a machine. Now, for me, that has got me through almost all of my consulting life using Config Manager, MDT, because building images was just a pain to do, and Winwich has absolutely made that so much easier. So quickly back to our slides. So OSD Cloud, as you saw, uses images available from Microsoft, and that's pretty much it. Winwich is a tool to create yourself a nice custom Vim file with all your customizations and make it brilliant. Wouldn't it be great if they would work together? Well, they do, and this is not an official collaboration, but it is, for me, it's a collaboration because I use the two together. OSD Cloud Azure is the next thing I'm going to talk about, not today, but in Lucerne in a few weeks' time, where we're going to go through how to put that Windows image into Azure storage, into blob storage, secure it in the cloud using role-based access control, and allow my engineer to get access to that Windows image that I put in the cloud from any USB stick in the world. So when Michael sends an engineer out to any other country in the world, they can get the exact image that I've put there ready to go with just a few clicks and a few commands. And with that, I think I need to hand over to John because I've massively overstayed my welcome here.
Yeah, I've got 13 minutes to run through 3 apps, but I'm confident because I can go quick, apparently. So let me share my screen and we will go from there. So the demo gods haven't been kind to me today. And one of my applications, the deployment of it doesn't really work well. So yeah, we're gonna park that at the end and hope that we run out of time. But Tim, yeah, I've got hard stop at 15:15. So kind of. So yeah, this app that I'm going to go through at the beginning is PowerShell ADT. So I don't know how many people know what PowerShell ADT is, but I basically learned it by looking at one of Dean's videos on his YouTube channel. So thanks, Dean. Yeah. So how does this supercharge your applications? So if we go through and have a look on what PowerShell ADT does, it actually does a really good wraparound on application deployment. So typically, I don't know how many of you do application deployments, but how I used to do it previously was create command files, create batch files, create a PowerShell script, and then run the application from there for any customizations that I need. But the app developer toolkit, which is the PowerShell app developer toolkit, just makes that a lot easier, and presentation is a lot better. And as you can see from the PowerShell ADT website, you know, it's easy to use. Anyone can use it, even myself. You know, it provides a consistent look. It's really powerful. You know, you can put in settings, registry keys. You can get users to prompt users to close applications before you want to deploy applications. You can get it to actually to close down applications automatically. It's really, really good, and it does provide a user interface. So if you're kind of used to the old installation method with Intune, it's kind of, you might get something on the right hand side on the sidebar saying it's downloading, installing, etc., but there's no real interface, just kind of out of the box. Localized, the UI is localized in several languages. You can add different languages as well. So if you've got a global company with many different languages, you know, it's all got localized languages, so you can have a good journey for everyone. It integrates really well with Config Manager. I don't know, it says SCCM. We're not allowed to say SCCM anymore. But yeah, really good integration. It's updatable, extensible, and very helpful. So if you we'll go through it in a minute. The documentation on it is really thorough, really good, and we'll dive into that in a second. That's my next slide. So let me just go through kind of a bit of a demo and show you how it looks. I'm doing all this via I'm just giving you kind of a clue on what the next tool is. So let's have a look at the PowerShell deployment toolkit and kind of have a look at the makeup of it. So I've created a folder here called source. It should be kind of called Google there, but we're going to install Google onto this virtual machine. So I've done the usual thing that what I normally do when I create an app. I create an input folder, I create an output folder, and I normally put the Intune Win app kind of around this area here, just so I can carefully lay out what my application looks like when we go to Intune. We have the build, and what I've done here is I've imported I've downloaded and extracted the ADT toolkit here. So where can you get that from? So I have a link here to their website. And doesn't work, obviously. I've got too much stuff. Oh, there we go. We haven't tried this before, have we? So we will Google.
So I mean, it is available on a Google. So a PS app deployment toolkit. The point is what John's just extracted there is the entire contents of the toolkit folder within the thing that gets downloaded, and that is a generic folder that you would copy across every application, and you customize it for the app that you need to install.
So from the GitHub here, you can go to the zip file here and just download it from this GitHub link here. So I extract all of that, put it into the build, and I have the 3 files here and 3 folders here. So if you look here, I've got the files folder, and I've already put in the Google Chrome Standalone Enterprise 64-bit MSI in there. And if we kind of look down here, you can see we've got 3 different applications here, but the thing that we're going to have to customize here is the PowerShell script, which is the deploy application.ps1. So if I open that, I want to open it with Visual Studio Code. It's a brand new virtual machine created about an hour ago, so it is quite, it is a bit all over the place in terms of getting things done, but we are good to go. So open file, and let's have a look at what that file looks like. So build and go to deploy application. We will trust that. So if we run down, you can see here that this isn't the one I created, but we can put in the app vendor stuff in here. We can put in the app name, the version, etc., etc. So you know kind of like some of the variables for the application. And as we go down here, as we start to go through down here, you can see what it's going to do. So the first thing down here, which we'll see, is you've got the if the deployment isn't an uninstall or it isn't a repair, it goes on to the next stage, which is the pre-installation. So if you've got any kind of pre-installation stuff you need to do for any applications, you can put all of the stuff in here. So if you notice here, it's closing the iExplorer, Internet Explorer, and you can put in different applications. So if this is Chrome, for example, we can just go into here and say we want to close Chrome. Installation down here. I've got this somewhere. I don't know where it's gone.
Well, I think just on the installation, on the close apps for show installation welcome that you've got on that line 120 there, you'll see it says dash allow defer and dash allow defer ×3. It's actually allowing the user to get a prompt which says we need to close Chrome, and if they're not ready to close Chrome, then they can defer it, and it counts down the amount of times that they've deferred that request. And that's really powerful because normally you haven't got that, right? It's either force close it or just back off the installation. This gives you a chance to say, look, we're going to be a bit nice, but we're not going to be very nice. You've got 3 chances to close it, and you can make that whatever number you like, but 3 makes sense.
100%. So after that, we have the installation thing. So here we've got the 0 config MSI installations. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do, I've done all this before. I don't know where it's gone.
But I think the nice thing to say is if you haven't done any of this before, and if you just put the MSI into that folder, into the files folder like John has, then it will do a zero config MSI installation. It knows how to install MSI, so it will just go ahead and do an MSI installation for you with no options, no attributes, or anything like that. But if you do want to customize the installation, or if you want to be more precise about the install, then you would do what John's doing right now and just type in execute MSI, install action, and then the path to the MSI within the files folder. And these, it's important to understand that this is relative to the files folder rather than relative to the source, to the root.
Definitely. So what you can kind of do over there, you've got the you go after the installation stage, which we've done here, you've got the uninstall stage as well. So it also backs up not only the install, but also does some uninstall, does the uninstall for the application as well. So typically previously, I would do like an uninstall config file and an install file separately. But here, I kind of do it all together. So we have the uninstall here as well. So that's why I just copied and pasted that. So once we do all of that, we can package this PS1 up all together and into an Intune win file. So I don't know what's happened here. I've been going from, there we go. It is actually been done previously. So if we go up into my endpoint manager, let's start to I want to deploy this application now. It's something I've done previously, but because of the demo gods, I did not want to deploy this live because obviously it would take forever and it wouldn't get done in time.
But if you tried it, John, you'd end up running over time, and that wouldn't be acceptable for anyone at all. So
I think we're running over time a little bit here, but I've already packaged this application up into Google, into Endpoint Manager, and as you can see, it failed previously. But yeah, it is what it is. So we've done it install commands. So I've done it install command as deployed application.ps1, and the detection method comes in as the MSI, and I obviously assign it to the group. So I'm going to run through this really quickly, and all I'm going to do to kind of show you what it looks like, I'm just going to run the PowerShell command, but I need to run it as an admin. So let me just run this as administrator and go all the way to what's going on here?
It's downloading PowerShell from OneDrive. That's helpful. Thanks, OneDrive.
Thanks. Cool. Anyway, yeah, this is fun. CD. So we're gonna go to the users, John, and go to my desktop where it is, and we have it in PowerShell. We don't. Where is it? This is not liking me today, is it? Okay.
It's in OneDrive.
Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to deploy the application like we just said, and we're not going to do the exe. We can do the exe, but we're going to do the PS1, and we're going to deploy that. Oh, we're going to run that by pressing R.
Now the user obviously won't see any of this stuff.
Yes,
run in the session. They will see this thing that just pops up there, which I think is a fantastic example of how this would look to the end user.
But it's also worth noting, Dean, that all of this here can be customized. So the PowerShell app deployment toolkit, that banner up there, that can be completely customized. The logo here can be completely customized as well. But something that you referred to earlier was the remaining deferrals. So you have the defer or continue. If a user decides to defer, then it doesn't install right then. But then if we press continue, bam, it will go off and install Google Chrome. Just kind of how it is, but it gives, as I said earlier, it gives a really good layer. And as you can see here, it does all of this you get all of this, and all this here again is completely customizable. So you can put company logos on it, you can, and other stuff as well.
Not just customizable though. I think also completely it changes the language as well. So depending on the language, the locale of the computer, that will say installation in progress in the correct language for the user, which is incredible. If you use the default stuff, then it's going to translate that automatically for you, which is really, really powerful for global teams.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Cool. So I'm going to move on swiftly because this is going to install. And this can be done via Intune as well, but just because of time, it's obviously a lot easier just to run the PowerShell script rather than Intune. I'm very concerned, Dean, that we've got a Supercharge in Intune and we haven't shown any Intune so far.
Well, there is that, and also we've gone for 5 apps and we've hit time with minus 1 minute to spare, and 2 apps remaining. So apologies to everyone who does need to jump out. I think it would be really good if we did hit the next couple of tools just as a brief.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw it up there and we're going to go to Intune Manager. So Intune Manager, this is an application that Tim Hermy actually told me about back at the Scottish Summit. So I've been using it ever since, and wow, it's really good. Really, really good. I really enjoy it. So I come up with kind of like the situation of when it is the best time for it to be used. So our consultant, he's gone off, he's created the absolute perfect Intune environment for his customer. Everything's there, security, policies, some applications, everything that you could possibly want in your Intune environment. But how can they properly document it, without spending loads of time just like copy and pasting stuff over and all of that type of stuff? How can they document it? And how can they crucially repeat config to other tenants? Because, our consultant here, he might be doing customer A in June, but when it comes to July, it might be on another customer. It might be another customer. And to save time, how does he do all of those policies again and just again and again and again and again? And fourth on this list, and the third kind of use case for it is kind of how can we ensure that settings aren't tampered with? How can we make sure that everything kind of stays in line as things go on? Intune Manager does it perfect. So what is it? So you have the ability in it to export and import config, and we'll go through that really quickly in a minute. You're actually able to have the ability to export readable documentation. I think readable documentation is the correct word for it. It's so customizable. If you've got any Word templates or anything like that, you can put them in there, and it will append everything to the back of the that documentation, and you can compare tenants to ensure settings do not exist, so and do not slip. So you basically compare JSONs to JSONs, and it gives you a setting of what's in the tenant and kind of what's in the exportable JSON as well. So if you know that you don't want anything to change and you've got some handy Intune admins out there who might want to change anything and not tell anyone, you can kind of scope out what's been changed as well. So this is what it looks like. We have the Intune Manager here. I've got some administrative set templates in there already, which Tim gave me. So thanks, Tim. I was playing around with them. And on the left-hand side, you can see all of the different things that you can get. So you've got your app configuration, your app protection, all the applications, autopilot, Azure branding, etc., compliance policies, and everything down there. And if you look on the bottom right-hand side here, we have a document button, we have the compare button, we can have a view button if you just want to see what's on there. We have a copy button, an import and an export button as well. So we'll go through kind of what each thing does really quickly. So let me just come out of this. So import and export. Intune Manager, Intune. So let's look up here in the administrative templates. If I take a look at any of these here, so Edge Chromium one here, I can right click it. I can go to export if I want this to export this. Work. Wait away. Export. Export. Okay, that's not exporting. But we have a backup. Give us 2 seconds.
While John does that, I'll just put the link to my video on the app deployment toolkit into chat. Please don't look at it now, ever. But if you do want to have a look at the App Deployment Toolkit in a bit more depth, then that link is there. Because I found that on my I did a poll of the subscribers, around 50 people answered the poll, how many people had heard of the App Deployment Toolkit, and almost all of them said they hadn't. So I did a quick video on what it was. So please do look at that. John, how are you doing on your
Great. So what I'm doing, instead of using a demo machine, I'm using my actual proper machine now. I'm going to just throw you over to that window right now, but I'm just loading it up. And I know that works. I use it daily. So give us 2 seconds whilst that's loading, and we are good to go. Maybe. Yes. There we go. Sorry, I just hit it right behind. Cool. Administrator templates. So if I click on the Edge Chromium one at the top, I can go to export, and look, it actually does export. So the tool is actually good. It's probably just my virtual machine not working somewhere. So export route. So I can say whereabouts on my machine I want it to go. So you can just select a folder and press export, and my settings will now go into, oh shit, it shouldn't go into there. But it will go in, that JSON will go into that folder straight away. And it is a really good tool, and I'll show you kind of what the JSON looks like off the back of that. As I said, it does take a little while just to kind of go through there. As we're doing a demo, of course, it's going to take a little bit longer than what's expected. But I'm going to skip through this so we don't have to look at it for too long.
But I think you're right. Documenting an Intune deployment, or any deployment really, is something that you don't really hate until you have to do it, right? When your boss comes along or the customer comes along and says, "Can you just document that for us?" It's awful if you have to do that. And yeah, having a tool to do that is really important. So this is brilliant.
So the compare thing is really good. So if you notice here, I clicked on that Edge Chromium security baseline, and I gave it a file to compare to. So maybe I've created a JSON like which we've just done before, and we want to compare the actual settings that are in Intune, that live settings in Intune, and compare it to there. So as soon as I press compare now, once I go to that compare output screen, it tells me exactly what's been set and what the Intune object currently is, and also what's actually configured in the JSON as well. So we can see, oops, there we go, having a bit of a meltdown there. We can see kind of if anything slips by the red there. So it's a really good way to kind of compare, previously exported JSONs to what's actually live in Intune as well. And documentation, as I said a second ago, if we want to document the whole of the environment, we can do it here. So if we go to output settings, some of the stuff that is really, really clever, if you've got a Word document template, you can specify the document template there and go through and check and go through and specify what heading style is for each one. And it goes off and creates documentation within your document template. So if you work for a company like myself, CDW, we've got our own low-level design templates. I can put the template straight into this Intune manager, and it goes off and creates the whole of the Intune documentation without me having to do anything really, except for the normal stuff at the beginning, like any kind of customer references and stuff like that, which I think is really powerful and saves so much time. And what does that look like? So I've got a GIF here, and this is definitely what it looks like. So you get a front page. If you haven't specified a template, you get all of the table of contents. But as we look through it, we get all the different type of stuff in there. So this application information, you get your security information, and for me that looks really nice as well. I've looked at some other documentation scripts as well, and for me this looks the best. And for everything else that you can do within Intune Manager, it's really good. So we can do it in bulk as well. So as I said, you can click on one application and you can do and you can do one application at a time, or you can export everything in bulk. So you can export the whole of the Intune environment to a JSON. You can document the whole of the environment, or you can document things step by step. So you can export all config to JSONs. You can import JSONs from files from other tenants. You can compare anything, and you can document everything in once. So that's everything you can do in bulk. So just want a quick shout out, created by Mick, I don't know how to pronounce that, Mick Carlson, maybe, Mickey Carlson.
Go with Mick.
and you can download that from github.com and Mick and from that link there. So I'll just give that quick shout out. So Cloud Apps, we're going to really run through Cloud Apps in a couple of seconds. What does it do? So it's a central repository for local admin and user passwords. It allows a rotation of local admin passwords every 24 hours. It's based on in Azure, and you can see the components here. How quick we're going through this thing.
I mean, I don't think you can skip through that architecture diagram that quickly. Cloud Apps essentially. You might have heard of Laps. Laps was awesome. Cloud Laps takes apps to the cloud. There are 3 or 4 different variations of a Cloud Laps, and this is the best I've seen personally. I love Cloud Laps. I use it in a couple of customer environments. It is also, as far as I've seen, the most secure implementation of a Cloud Laps alternative. Of course, there may be Laps built into Intune in the future, or Azure AD, or whatever, whichever bolt-on they make, and whether it costs or not, yet to be seen. But this is how Cloud Laps works. I've got a couple of videos on it if you do want to see it in more depth. But maybe
we just link the video for now, Dean, because we're running well over.
we are indeed. But thanks to everyone for sticking with us. But actually that is a good start, as you say. Just put that back on the screen. So the Cloud Laps documentation is the best documentation I've seen for a community tool. There, actually, Winwich is pretty good, and OSD Cloud is phenomenal. So all the ones we've chosen are really good at documenting how to deploy what they're doing. This is fantastic. So do take a look. If you have any requirements around local admin password solutions, then this is brilliant.
Yeah, start here. And then what does it look like in the back end at the end? So the most important one, you get a screen like this, and you can it is restricted, so you can choose people that can go onto this. All you need to do is search for the serial number of the device, the computer name of the device, and you get your local admin username, and you get the local admin password as well. So that is, as we said earlier, that can be changed every 24 hours, and that's done using a remediation script in Intune. So what we'll do is we'll link the video into the chat for Dean's, but we're really sorry about running over. But yeah, maybe 5 applications is we're gonna have to streamline this a little bit, Dean.
Or just try and request an hour slot, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. The problem is the tools are too good to just talk at really short length about them. We'll have to figure it out. We're going to give this talk in the future, I'm sure. So, but yeah, all the tools which have been through, in my eyes, are absolutely brilliant. And there are tons more that we could go through that have just come around slightly too recently for us to learn them enough to be able to talk about them with this kind of knowledge. So yeah, there are more to come.
Cool. So just want a quick shout out. If you want to check out who created that, their Twitter links are there, and for more information on Cloud Apps, click on that link there. So msendpointmanager.com/Cloud Apps. And finally, big thanks from myself and Dean.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Any questions, let us know. But maybe we can facilitate it after the session.
Thanks a lot, guys.